Hello and welcome to Focus with Renee. So we've started seeing a lot of exploration of oil and gas in the north, in the east and in the coastal parts of Kenya. A lot of the players though are foreign players who will employ some locals to work within the oil fields and to work also within the exploration areas. But we're not seeing a lot of local companies and locally run companies who are stepping up to the challenge. Well, today I want to bring you a story that has a bit of a difference. In fact, it is someone who is running his own company, who is an Upstream Oil and Gas, that is the name of the company, Upstream Oil and Gas, and who, a local player, has found his way into those oil fields and is beginning to drill for his own wealth and his own value add within this particular industry. My name is Renee Gamal, and you're watching Focus with Renee. With us today is Joe Watson Gakur, who is the Managing Director of Upstream Oil and Gas Limited. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Renee.
So let's start right from the beginning. What does Upstream Oil and Gas do?
Upstream Oil and Gas basically is a company that is playing within the upstream sector. And when I mean upstream is with exploration of oil and gas, what we are right now is not what we intended to be. Because our aim is to be an exploration company by ourselves. But to get there as a Kenyan company, as an individual who just got into this sector, then there are other supportive activities that we do, which at this particular moment is providing information about what is happening within the oil and gas sector. And that was for me the most basic gap that exists, that I felt, and that particular time when I was starting, that I could be able to feel, from the point of the industry is new to the country, what is it that I can do? At this particular moment, it's closing informational gap, and as the journey unfolds.
Information is king, but obviously information applied is both influence, power, and then the third, it's also your way to riches. What is the gap that you identified in terms of information? What is the specific information that's missing right now?
When I started, basically, I was coming from an investment banking background. So initially what you want to find out, even for my own self, is, okay, there is oil in the country. So is the story going? What is really happening? And from the basic, trying to find out that information about oil, for example, in Kenya or within the region, you don't even find it, even if you try to look for it in the internet. And for me, that was a clear indication that if the problems that I was having trying to find the information about my own country, if there are as many people interested in the sector as myself, then there are a lot of people who would want to get that information. And so I dug deeper. And that applies to not only people locally, but at that particular time, we had a lot of interest of foreign companies who are coming into the country who do not know where do you go, where do you start. And those were the initial steps that I applied, trying to help someone get to know the country. How do you go about acquiring your license if it's for exploration? How do you find where to stay in Kenya? Where do you stay? How do you get to move allowed? And so basically I started like advisory services. That was actually the first thing that I did. Advisory services, advise people. And that particular element has grown by itself. People do not understand this sector. And I want to break it down for them. To start with, what is upstream? When there's oil in Turkana, what really goes on? Asking the normal Kenyans, they have no clue. They are expecting that, the oil that we have translates into lower pump prices.
Okay, so let me ask you. So what is happening with oil in Turkana?
No, we are in what in any country is called exploration phase of oil and gas sector, which basically means what you're doing is you have an idea, you think that maybe within this expansive piece of blood or piece of a region or piece of a country, there may be existing some hydrocarbon, oil, gas, or any other hydrocarbon element. And so what you want to do is basically go and now try and figure out exactly whether there is anything. The same way we go digging for water in our homesteads. We all have an idea that maybe within my village there is water. But the only way to find out, other than the flowing rivers, because we don't have flowing oils of river, is to dig. And it can be shallow or it can be as deep. That's exactly what is happening in Turkana. Companies that have been allowed by the government to look for oil in the country, and there are many. They're not just in Turkana. They're in other regions as well, but we only know Turkana because that's where the first discovery was made, are just digging holes in the ground to find out whether there is oil or gas, and when they do, how much of it is there and to what extent it is there.
So yeah, you say that they're in the process of discovery, but already we've seen declaration saying that there is oil. What else are they discovering? Isn't it time to mine it?
We had the announcement of discovery, yes, that there is oil. It's like saying when you drill a hole looking for water in your backyard, you have discovered that there is water. Mm-hmm. But by the time you get that water out, you need to do quite a bit of other work. Get maybe an expert to come and measure for you how much water you may have in that well, whether it is sustainable for you to actually get it out, and how long, when you start getting the water out, you can actually be consuming the water. Mm. That's what is happening with oil. They drilled one well, which is the most popular in Kenya, Gamia 1. They discovered oil. But then there is a process of figuring out how much oil do we have, which is the phase they call appraisal, which in a very layman's terms is basically drilling very many more wells to first find out, was Gamia, for example, the deepest of that field? Or was it maybe just a small element of it? Then you also want to know, if you drill here, is there more oil, maybe 500 meters, 1 kilometer to the north? That kind of expansion, you want to see the extent to which the oil field reaches, and that's what they're doing right now. So you have this process going on, and by the time they are finished, they'll have calculated the exact amount of oil we have. Right now you hear numbers, 600 million barrels. Right now they have increased it to 1 billion barrels. Maybe it will be more than the numbers that you hear within the industry, that we have more oil, but that can only be ascertained through tests and through analysis and proper computation.
So let's take a step back to
Yes.
what you and your organization do. So you started off by giving advisory services. This was the thing that you needed to do.
Yes.
And how many players are there, how many local players are there right now in upstream oil and gas, outside of landowners? Because that's where usually, the locals will show up.
Uh-huh. Let's start by basically saying, oil and gas is relatively new into the country. Which means from an investment point of view, there was no incentive for somebody to get involved. Because if you're in business, you are doing business to develop yourself, to create wealth. And you're looking at what exists within a certain economy. Oil and gas is a relatively new sector. And it requires, especially the upstream, the drilling, the looking for oil is a very high capex, high capital intensive business. And so we do not have Kenyans who actually have exploration or own exploration companies in the country today. We have what they refer to as 23 operators. We have 23 companies which have been licensed to look for oil here in Kenya. But through their partnerships, they are over 100 because they usually look for partners and all that. So that 23, you may find that one has 4 partners. So the number that we have here is over 100 of those oil and gas exploration companies. But we are starting to see interest in Kenyans getting, upstream is one of them. We are getting involved because we want to play in this game some years down the line. And But to get to that level, there's need for, you need to build capacity, continue understanding more about the industry, build capital, de-risk your business so that even when you're looking for partner, they're easy to say, okay, fine, we can get involved. So most of the Kenyans right now are playing at tertiary level, There are companies that are already existing, providing services in other sectors, but then they are also supporting the exploration and drilling companies that are in the country. Yes.
The industry, or that is sort of ancillary to this, is of course transport and refinery, what you would call, I think in your parlance, midstream. The north, the east, and the northern part of the coast, outside of the tourist zones, has traditionally not been very well developed. It's in terms of infrastructure.
Yes.
Looking at what we have now and the projections for the next about possibly 5 years in terms of exploration, do you think that it is feasible for us to actually expect that we'll be able to extract that oil from the ground and move it to a refinery, whether in Lamu or whether we still have the old refinery? Is it something that is actually feasible, or should Kenyans be managing their expectations a bit better?
I think it's both. We should be managing our expectation, but also expecting things to happen within the next 5, 10 years, so to speak. If you look at the current, what has happened for the last couple of weeks, we have had our Kenyan government and Ugandan government agree on the route for the crude pipeline. That in itself was a decision that was necessary because it had delayed other players from making certain decisions. And what will happen next is the government, those two governments, will send out the request for proposals for the construction of the crude pipeline. The expectation is that from the time it starts to take 36 to 48 months, so 4 years. So if we start in 2016, towards the end of 2016, at least we should have the pipeline ready by 2020. The decision by the exploration companies who have basically found oil within the country and within the region, that is Uganda and Kenya, have indicated their intention to actually go to market as soon as possible. But before that, there are decisions that need to be made, because whatever is going on at the global level in terms of prices of crude determines whether an investor will be able to put up the infrastructure required to get the oil out of the ground and then pump it out. So there are a mix of factors that will determine whether the 5 years is feasible or not. But to answer your question, it's doable.
It's doable.
It's doable. The exploration company have the motive of going to market, taking this product to market as soon as possible, so that then they can start earning some revenues. And for government, of course, it has an interest in terms of developing the northern frontier of the country, because when infrastructure happens, the multiplier effect of that project is very huge. Just look at the road. Some of the things that happened since that road was constructed is phenomenal. So we expect the same to happen in the northern corridor.
Of course, you can reach this past episodes and future episodes of Focus with Renee on Capital FM TV. Watch it on capitalfm.co.ke, plus all of our other shows. As always, once again, thank you very much for watching Focus with Renee. I'm Renee Gamau.